They mocked him before he could speak. They decided he was unworthy before he could walk. They laughed when he approached, and when he loved, they recoiled. In Eniaka, beauty was worshipped, size was strength, and silence meant weakness. And so, they gave him no name he could be proud of. But time gave him a name they would never forget. Agon, the boy who watched from shadows, the boy who loved too deeply for a world too shallow, too small to be chosen, too strange to be trusted. Children ran from him, men ignored him, women whispered curses behind their hands, but Agon heard them all. And though no one saw him then, they remember him now, because something happened in that village, something no one dares to speak of during the Harmattan wind. What did Agon do? What did they do to him? Why do elders still speak his name only in whispers? This is not a myth, this is a warning. In the forgotten fold between the black rivers and the red hills, wrapped by the arms of sacred trees and guarded by the bones of ancient warriors, there lived a people untouched by time. They called their home Eniaka, the land of the chosen, the land of the perfect. In Eniaka, a man's worth was measured by the strength of his voice, the width of his chest, the clarity of his bloodline. Beauty was not just admired, it was currency, it was power. Men fought under the eyes of the ancestors, muscles glistening with sweat as they wrestled for the right to marry. Victory meant you were favored by the spirits. To fall was to bring shame to your lineage. Women danced with the rhythm of thunder, their ankles wrapped in beads, their movements calling down blessings. They bore sons as strong as iron and daughters with laughter like rain. Here, perfection was not a goal, it was a standard, and anyone who fell beneath it was forgotten. In this place of pride and rhythm, there was one child whose presence seemed almost like an insult to tradition. His name was Agon. He was not born crooked, he was simply small, quiet, not enough. He did not speak when spoken to. He did not run with the others. He listened too much. He watched too closely. He existed in the cracks of Eniaka's perfection, and cracks were never welcome. He did not cry when he was born. The midwife said he opened his eyes too early, and held the stare of the elder too long. A newborn should blink and scream, not watch and think. And so, before he could form a single word, they had already decided who he would never become. To the women, he was not a boy to be admired. To the men, he was not a son to be proud of. To the children, he was a shadow. And to the old, he was an omen. In a village that worshipped power, beauty, and legacy, Agon became the one thing no one asked for, a reminder that the gods sometimes make mistakes. Some say Agon was born during a lunar eclipse when the gods turned their backs and the sky turned red. Others claim his mother wept through her entire pregnancy and no one knew why. A few villagers whispered that Agon was a child of silence, a gift the gods forgot to finish. In every tale, there are not just heroes and villains. Sometimes there are witnesses. Sometimes there are mirrors. Agon was not a hero, not yet. He was not born to slay beasts or chant incantations. He did not carry a staff, he carried silence. But silence, in a village that prized sound, was unforgivable. They called him Inta, the small one, the invisible one, the one who should not have dared to look desire in the eye. Agon moved like wind between branches, always present, never felt. He observed everything. He watched men lie and women pretend. He saw kindness buried and cruelty dressed in beads. Children feared him, not because he was dangerous, but because he was different. And in Eniaka, difference was dangerous. Then there was Akaite, the village jewel, the moon in daylight. Men composed songs for her before they could write. When she danced, drums stumbled to follow. When she spoke, fire cracked in envy. But beauty, when married to cruelty, becomes venom. Ekaete did not hate Agon, she simply did not see him as human. On the day he brought her carved flowers made from palm bark, she laughed. She said, "Even a toad would choose another toad, why come to me?" Mubari was muscle without mercy. The warrior. He wrestled like a god, and thought like a child. He was the village's pride, the son of a chief, the shadow of his father's spear. His hatred for Agon was not born from fear, it was born from confusion. Because no matter how often he pushed Agon, Agon never pushed back. But not all looked away. Some saw, some remembered. Mama Odike the herbalist lived at the edge of Iniaka, where plants whispered louder than people. She wore black even when the sun scorched. No one asked why. They feared her, but not because of what she did. They feared her because she knew, and she spoke to Agon. It began with the carvings. No one saw where the wood came from, thick, dark, like it had been soaked in blood, yet untouched by flame. Agon would sit alone beside the dying embers of his fire, hands moving as if guided by something, not of this world. Each figure he carved looked like someone in the village Mubari, Ekaete, even the chief's son, but distorted, their eyes hollow, their mouths sealed shut. One morning, Mubari's mother found a figure nailed to their hut's door. That same night, Mubari collapsed during a moon fight, coughing blood no healer could explain. And then, the dream started. Ekaete screamed in her sleep, clawing at the air. She said a masked figure dragged her through trees that whispered her secrets aloud. Children whispered about seeing Agon speak to the wind. The wind, they said, answered. Ekaete, the untouchable, wept in front of her mirror, claiming her beauty was melting in her sleep. Mubari, the warrior, woke each night with his hands around his own throat. Even the chief, once loud with pride, sat silently through the village council, his eyes locked on Agon's hut. And Mama Odike, the woman who never smiled? She smiled, and the village grew afraid. Elders claimed Agon found the mouth of the Whispering Grove, an ancient place said to echo every cruelty ever spoken within its trees. Some say Mama Odike was never just a herbalist, but the last tongue of an old covenant. The carvings? No one could burn them. Some cracked, some bled, but none turned to ash. A traveling priest who came to bless the village vanished the next day. His sandals were found facing backward by the entrance of Agon's hut. What would you do if the forest listened to your thoughts and spoke them out loud? Drop your theories in the comments. Who do you think changed, Agon or the village around him? The fire moon, a rare blood-red eclipse the village believed, brought both blessing and reckoning. It was meant to be a night of unity. Offerings were placed at the shrine, drums echoed like heartbeats, and the air smelt of yam, sweat, and palm wine. The villagers danced in circles, their feet lifting dust like spirits rising from the ground. But just as the rhythm reached its peak, everything stopped. No cue, no warning. The talking ceased, the laughter cut short, even the wind froze in the trees. And then he came. Agon, the one they never chose, the one they never feared until that moment. He wasn't taller, his body hadn't changed, but something else had, a presence, a weight, like gravity bowed around him. The children clutched their mothers. Mubari, once the loudest of them all, stepped back without realizing it, and no one, not one soul, called him by name. It was as if they feared speaking it aloud would summon something worse. Mubari, with chest bare and voice trembling behind his pride, steps forward. So, the carved ghost walks among men. What do? You want, cursed one? Agon says nothing. He merely looks at him. One glance and Mubari's knees buckle. Mubari vomits red into the dirt, gasping, gripping his own throat like it's no longer his. The villagers part like water around Agon. He walked towards Ekaete, standing in full beauty and full fear. He didn't touch her, neither did he raise his voice. I do not need your hand, only your eyes. Now, you see. The boy they used to trip in the dust now stood above them like an old god returned. His silence screamed louder than their drums. His gaze a mirror no one wanted to face. And for the first time since the founding of Eniaka, the villagers dropped their heads not in respect, but in shame. Some elders insist they saw a shadow behind him, one that didn't quite match his form moving milliseconds before or after him, never in sync. Others claim Mama O'Dyke was never seen again after that night. Her hut? Empty. Her herbs? Wilted overnight. A traveling merchant who passed through days later spoke of a village too quiet, too clean, as if something had wiped it fresh. But when asked who lived there, the merchant said, no one spoke, but every pair of eyes was watching. If you were in that crowd, would you stand your ground? Or would you, like Mubari, fall to your knees before a boy you once mocked? Be honest and tell us below. He left as quietly as he came. No thunder, no farewell, just the hush of dawn, a low mist curling through Eniaka, and the faint imprint of barefoot steps in red soil fading before the sun could claim them. Agon disappeared into the forest, and not one soul followed, not even the curious, not even the brave. For even the wind seemed to whisper, leave him be. But he didn't leave the village empty, his carvings stayed. And no matter how many strong arms tried to move them, they wouldn't budge. The wood refused flame, refused rot, refused time. As if the stories inside them had rooted too deep. As if pain, remembrance, and power had weight. And so they remained. Akaete never married. The jewel of Eniaka, the woman who once turned her face from the broken boy, grew older with beauty, but colder with silence. Some say she still walks the edge of the woods at night, barefoot, whispering apologies to the dark. Mubari? The warrior's voice was never heard again. He did not leave the village. But he never again laughed, or danced, or dared. Every full moon he stares at Agon's carving as if waiting for it to speak, or to judge, or to end him. Mama O'Dyke vanished. Her hut remained, empty and locked. But inside, villagers later found dried leaves, arranged in circles, and one carving, a child-sized one, smiling. It is not the tallest tree that sees the sunrise first, it is the one that dares to look up, and never measure worth by what the eyes can see, for some spirits walk taller than kings. Agon's story is not just Eniaka's, it is every place where the different are discarded, until the day the world remembers that broken things, when seen fully, are sometimes divine. Was Agon a victim, a messenger, or something more? Let us know in the comments. And if you've ever been silenced, judged, or cast aside, remember, the fire moon rises, for those who dare to rise with it. If this story touched you, or reminded you of someone, don't keep it to yourself. Click the like button if this tale meant something to you, leave a comment and be part of the story. And subscribe for more African stories told through fire, memory, and truth. Some stories are told for fun, others are told to remind us of what we must never forget.